Hello, welcome everyone. I see people joining. We'll begin in a few more minutes. Please, let's be patient and we'll start in a few more minutes. Still have some people left to join.
Hi, Federica.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Mashad. Thanks for joining.
Guys, thanks for hosting.
We're just waiting a few more minutes, allowing some time for people to get settled and join into the meeting. All right, we'll give it about another 30 seconds. I think we'll get started so we can be respectful of everyone's time. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. Okay, Google, tell me how. We'll begin in just a minute. Thanks, Jack. All right, so now it's time to get started, I think. So again, thank you all for joining today. And we're going to go over some rules of engagement before we begin. So for this meeting or this Hangout, this Google Meet meeting, we're going to please mute our microphones on the session so that that everyone can enjoy the presentation. And we will allow time later on at the end of the session to ask for live questions. But if something pops up in your mind, you can please use the chat function on the Google Meet on the top corner of the screen and put your questions there. And we're going to make a list and address them at the end. After the session, we will also be reaching out for feedback. And we would love to hear from you what you're interested in learning next. And we're going to try to add it to our topics for the next discussions or next sessions. And the last, we'd like you to continue to explore today's topic after the fact. So if you're interested in exploring these topics for today, please let us know, and we can arrange a conversation with the experts, okay? All right, let's take a look at what we're going to do today, what to expect. So today's topic, we've called it Remote Desktop and Application Solutions in 24 Hours with itopia. My name is Federico Rodriguez. I'm a customer engineer with Google Cloud, and I work with our sales teams to help our customers and partners leverage the power of Google Cloud. I try to explain technical features and recommend GCP-based solutions. And I will be your moderator today. And here's our agenda for today. So we're first going to take a quick overview or an in-depth overview, I guess, of itopia and GCP solutions. We're going to go into a demo and also talk about some customer success stories. And then we'll open up for Q&A. And now we're going to go and get started with our presenters for today. Today we have invited James Riley and Rob Wagner from itopia. This is one of our trusted partners and an amazing solution that they bring to the market. And they also are the winner of the Partner of the Year award. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's presentation. I'm going to let James introduce himself and Rob. And please, if you can, James, also give us a fun fact about you when you introduce yourself, please. Okay. So I'll give it to you, James.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Federico, and thank you to the Google team for inviting us and for the customers who have joined. We really appreciate your time and do not take it for granted. So, again, my name is James Riley. I am VP of Strategic Alliances, and really that's two parts. One is working directly with Google and helping them work through customer opportunities who may want to leverage virtual desktops or desktop as a service on Google Cloud. One fun fact, I'm a new dad, and my daughter is going to turn 10 months here in a few days. So, in saying that, I'll pass it over to Rob Wagner for a quick introduction.
Happy Thursday. My name is Rob Wagner, and I'm a customer engineer, and my focus is helping you understand our platform, deploy our platform, and be successful on our platform. Fun fact about me, I'm homeless. The honest truth is I live in my RV. When I say I'm homeless, everybody holds their breath, right? We sold our conventional home in December, and my wife and I live in our RV and travel the country. So if you look over my shoulder, you may actually see the RV behind me. But rest assured, I'm here for you, no matter which state I'm in. Back to you, Federico.
Excellent, Rob. Thank you, James and Rob. So we'll give it to James in a minute to get started with the presentation. But before, I just wanted to say, why I think this topic is important today. As we know, this topic has been at the forefront of business continuity discussions lately with a lot of companies. Normally, companies are limited to, implement virtual desktop solutions to certain employee profiles for security reasons or very specific jobs. And honestly, very few small to medium companies today have included a VDI solution in their DR plan. And with the way this pandemic is affected the workforce today, I think it's now a very much needed capability, and it's an important, with the situation that we're living today, it's an important capability to enable the majority of our workforce now to do their jobs remotely and to do it in a secure and cost-effective manner, most importantly, right? So with that said, I'm just going to give it to James to get started with the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Federico. So, when it comes to virtual desktop infrastructure or desktop as a service, whatever you would like to call it, it really all delivers the same end result. And that end result is giving your users and your employees access to Windows applications on any device. And really the process is how we get there. And so we're going to show you how we get there today on Google Cloud and using itopia. And so really, especially around COVID-19, business continuity is more important than ever for remote workers. And being able to deploy those solutions at scale and doing it in a timely fashion are very important. You can go to the next slide for Federico. So those solutions, typically always are required to be secure first and foremost. And that can be leveraging a bring your own device policy you may have. Or a corporate device that's locked down. Second, it has to be cost effective, as Federico mentioned. And one thing about delivering cloud services, one concern is really figuring out how much is this going to cost me, right? And being able to keep those guardrails on is something that we really help you to do. And we also help you drive down the cost, which you'll see here today. Third, it needs to be quick to deploy, right? So being able to stand up this infrastructure and allow your employees to access, those critical business applications and data points, it needs to happen quickly. And again, when you have issues like we've seen with COVID-19, you need to have a plan. And I truly believe that moving forward, every company is going to have a plan around remote work. Lastly, the ease of management, right? So you'll see how using itopia does not require you to be a Google Cloud engineer. It doesn't require you to be a Windows engineer. With a little bit of training on the itopia platform, a junior sysadmin could actually manage hundreds or even thousands of users at scale, and you'll see that here today. So our answer to this solution is really what we feel is desktop as a service, right? And so some components that really separate itopia, first and foremost, it's fast. You'll see today that we can go through a quick wizard in about 5 or 10 minutes and then spin up a cold deployment in Google Cloud in about 90 minutes, depending on the size of the deployment. We're very flexible. You have full control over the image creations, over the infrastructure, and really building out the deployment that's a good fit for your business. Third, it's automated. So we actually automate over 300 different tasks within Google Cloud. Again, I'm requiring you not to be that expert, and really ties into the simplicity of the solution, right? So being able to deploy complex multi-regional deployments with different sets of users, again, can all be done very easily through the Itopia console. We're very efficient, right? So we do have algorithms that scale up the environment up and down based on real-time user demand, and can also even set a schedule for your resources. So if there's certain holidays or for certain industries where deployments can be turned off at night or even early in the mornings, and you can actually cut down on your costs by 30 up to 60% of your GCP consumption running 24/7. Lastly, it's secure. So we have all the great power of Google Cloud and all the certifications. We can import your group policies, and we can also apply more settings that can help help you as a customer be HIPAA compliant, FINRA compliant, PCI compliant, and we can actually help you implement that as part of the solution as well. So we are the only solution on the market that's 100% purpose-built for Google Cloud to deploy this technology. It provides the lowest latency, we feel provides the best security, and overall, it's been a great experience for thousands of our end users that have used Itopia to deploy on Google Cloud today. So how does this actually work, and what are the components that make up this experience? It starts with the worker. At the end of the day, it starts and ends with providing a great end user experience to your workers, being able to leverage the device. Again, the device can be bring your own device, which is becoming more popular. And then you can also have a corporate issued device. The protocols and the technology that we're actually deploying is what we call remote desktop services. It's a Microsoft technology, and it's really been transformed for the cloud to deliver a great experience to host virtual desktops and applications. And then that technology and protocol is deployed on top of Google Cloud and can be deployed globally. The end result of what happens with the end user is they can access a full Windows 10 desktop experience, or they can stream a remote application. It can be accessed through a browser, or it can be accessed through a client. So what you're seeing here is a full Windows 10 desktop. You can customize the image, and again, it gives the same look and feel for customers as they would be using on their own local PCs.
So
Now, yeah, please.
Quick question on that. Sorry, this pops up. So, can Itopia connect to your existing identity management services?
That's a great question, Federico. So Active Directory is a requirement to deploy and run remote desktop services, and we can absolutely connect to an existing AD, and you'll see how we do that here in just a second.
Excellent.
Any other questions so far, Federico?
Well, another thing that pops up also in my head is can you deploy this application on multiple GCP regions? Let's say you have a global operation, and you want the desktops to be closer to the user, right?
Yep. So absolutely. So we can take one deployment, and then we can take that same Active Directory domain. We can deploy it in several regions, and we can really kind of create that global presence of this deployment for your customers.
Excellent. Thank you.
No problem. And just as pause right here on this page here, we can also deliver a remote app experience. And so remote app is still driving the same technology in the back end, but typically it can sit in a start menu on a computer, or it can sit on the desktop, and it will look and feel as if it was a native application sitting on your local desktop. So you have options. You can access through the browser, you can access through a client, you can access a full Windows 10 desktop, or you can just stream the application.
Great.
So this is all done through the Itopia console, which we call our cloud automation stack. Again, it's multi-tenant, so you can have several deployments sitting under one control panel, and you can also provide different admin access to users. So if you wanted one of your resources to manage one particular deployment, you can have that flexibility here. And it's really scalable to meet your demand. If it's tens of thousands of users and workers, or if it's just one single deployment you're managing, it all happens here in the console. And we'll get to this here in just a second. So before we go into a demo, I just want to touch on what is it that we're actually deploying within your Google project, right? Itopia, again, I want to make clear, we take care of the heavy burden and the heavy lifting of deploying the topology and the architecture that you see here today. And so I would like to introduce our customer engineer, Rob Wagner, who will kind of walk you through some of the details that happen, within the topology that you see here.
Happy Thursday, everyone. I watch the clock probably just like all of you, and so I'm looking forward to tomorrow being Friday. When we look at our architecture, first, I want to be clear that we build RDS according to Microsoft's RDS best practices and Microsoft and Google's best practices when it comes to security. So as the pointer's moving around, I want the pointer to hit the networking section, the left piece. This is where it all starts. So when you first build our solution in our platform, we first start with building the virtual private cloud. That's the virtual network within the Google Cloud. And each deployment requires its own separate Google project. Then we go in and we'll build out the load balancer and the firewall rules. The last thing we do is add the public IPs, don't worry. But we build out all these rules so that we build this stable platform. Now, if you have to connect to an existing, say, on-premises Active Directory, this is where our wizard will then stop. We have the network set up. Now we need a virtual network connection back to your on-premises AD, or say it's even in another cloud, we could do that as well. We automate the creation of that VPN connection now. So we'll tell you, hey, here's our pre-shared key. Do you want IPv1 or v2? And where are we headed? And so you fill in the detail about where we're going to connect to. And then once we connect to that on-premises network and see that Active Directory domain controller, we can continue the construction of this process. Now, if you don't need to bring your own Active Directory domain controller, then we'll create a new Active Directory domain controller for you and a whole new Active Directory domain. And the wizard shows you how we can do that. So we can connect to, again, a new Active Directory domain, create one for you. We can connect to the bottom picture there, an existing Active Directory domain, if you have it on premises or in another cloud. And then, of course, we can also use the Google managed Active Directory. So I had to save that for last, right? Frederico's helping me out with the pointer. But when I show you these things, it's what we're doing is leveraging all the power of the Google Cloud. If you look to management and monitoring to the right, again, more Google Cloud power because we're leveraging BigQuery for all the data mining capabilities. And you can install things like Stackdriver, so it'll gather all of that data for you. So you can look at things like when are users logging in and logging out, how long were they connected, how are the virtual machines performing. You can look at loads and things like that. And the other cool part is we have a lot of canned recording, but of course it's also exposed to you, so you can go build your own custom reports. Now, when we go up to the file server piece, we of course can use a Windows file server for your file services needs, but we've also integrated the NetApp Cloud Volumes. So if you have a lot of file services work to do and performance is important, we've integrated the NetApp Cloud Volumes so that you can get that more scalable, better performance. And then, of course, the best for last, the remote desktop services. So again, we build the remote desktop services based on best practices. And in our wizard, we can build a whole RDS environment in as few as 3 virtual machines And that scales for small implementations. And then we can scale up to as many virtual machines as you need to support your customer infrastructure. And as James mentioned, we can even cross regions. So Google has lots of redundancy. I completely agree, but nobody can prevent the meteor from striking the data center, right? So if, heaven forbid, that were to happen, or, you know, and no matter how redundant you are in a data center, a backhoe can still take out fiber. And Microsoft suffered a huge outage last year because of something like that. So the cool part about our platform is we have these redundant RDS instances across regions that you can create. So I'm going to show you how you can find the closest Google region that has your infrastructure. And then, heaven forbid, if one fails, I'm going to show you how you can reconnect to the other one and continue working. So all of this is what the Itopia Cloud Automation Stack brings you. And we make it simple to manage users. We make it simple to manage Google. So again, you don't have to learn Google. You don't have to become a Windows expert. What we let you do is ask us in 2 simple screens, hey, this is what I want to build. We'll go build it in a couple hours for you. And then we let you focus on driving the end value to the end user. So that's my focus on this slide. Is it my turn to share my desktop and show stuff off?
I think we have one more slide here.
I think we're going to make a little break for game time right now. Let's go ahead, and before we run your demo, Rob, want to play a little game with our audience to see if you falling asleep or you've been paying attention, actually. So here we go. So the first person that answers this question correctly, the question is, does Itopia work on any cloud provider? So you guys can go ahead and email Ashley at this email that is shown on the screen right now, ashleyharding@google.com. And the first person to answer it correctly will get a Google Home Mini. And we'll just contact the winner after the fact. So I'll give it a couple of more minutes for people to answer the question. Let's just give it 1 or 2 minutes. So go ahead.
Federico, can Rob or I answer the question?
No, you're not allowed to, man.
Okay.
I'll hook you up with a mini later, though. Just for being here for us.
Yes, we take care of you. And also, for people that are watching the recording, it might be too late by then to answer this question. But
of course.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All right. Yeah, only on the live session. Let's clarify that, right? All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Rob, if you want to take control over while people are jumping on their emails to answer the question, you can just go ahead and get your presentation for the demo going. I'm going to stop presenting here and let you drive now.
Okay. If you didn't get the email address, ashleyharding@google.com, or you can always ask in the IM and Federico will give you the address again.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to type it in the chat window in case anybody missed it.
Okay, but hopefully everybody sent their email off because, well, I suspect if you haven't pressed send yet, you're not the first one. So, again, happy Thursday. And I pressed the wrong button. Don't you love it when you do that? So what I'm going to do is first jump right to the end user experience as my screen goes away for me. So what I've done is I've got this remote desktop session, and I'm going to bring this one up. And so it shows that I'm connected to a test drive environment. This is what the end user can see. Okay, and so I bring this up and I bring up printers and scanners to show you that we even support redirected devices. This brother MFC is actually a multifunction device that's printer, scanner, copier, fax machine. And so I have access to that even from a remote desktop environment. And then, of course, I have my browser. I can have all of my Office applications or my Google applications, of course. All of those fit here incredibly well. So when we look at this desktop experience, we can do this across a single monitor like you're seeing, or I have 3 monitors that I use. And so I can start a remote desktop session across all 3 monitors. And that way I have my email on one side and my projects on the other. You know how the multi-monitor adventure works, right? So this requires the remote desktop services client and uses the traditional RDS that we've been accustomed to. Now, in the background, I'm also showing you the HTML5 experience. So let's say you have a Chromebook or a highly managed environment, even kiosk machines where you can't install anything, including a remote desktop session client. We also install the HTML5 version of this whole experience so that now I can do full desktops. And when I click on this, it's actually going to launch it right out of this RDS session. So in a moment, you'll see this session go away and you'll see it pop into the HTML5 experience. But while we're waiting on that, I also have Chrome right here as a remote app. So a little funny thing, if you haven't ever seen Chrome within a Chrome browser before, here it is, because I'm using Chrome here, and then I'm using Chrome here as well. And then Excel as a remote application as well. So again, I could use these remote applications or even the full desktops all in the browser, or I can use them in the traditional RDS client environment. So then the question is, how did we get here? So with the Itopia Cloud Automation Stack, all of that can be built in just a couple hours. When we move to the Itopia Management Portal, I'm going to show you a deployment by the name of Itopia Test Drive. So this portal gives you the ability to manage multiple deployments at once. Maybe deployments are separate companies, or maybe each deployment is a separate organization within your company. So if you have a lot of organizations that absolutely have to be private on their information, you can create a completely separate project in a completely separate Google project, and that way their data is completely isolated from everybody else in the company. Think about things like HR, right? So we've got them covered as well. But from this dashboard, we have a nice little map here of your headquarters location and any other remote sites you have. You can add them into this and we'll pin them for you. This is not geolocation of every user, because in some places, that's a privacy issue. But again, from this dashboard, I can show you how many users. Well, we have 17 users offline. We have one user that's idle. That's me. And then this deployment, I'm going to get into more of the details, but basically this deployment is provisioned across all four of these regions: Europe, US, and 2 in Asia. And then we have 4 distinct endpoints. So the cool part about these endpoints is you can connect to any of these endpoints to get access to your remote desktop services environment. But I also told you I would show you how to easily find access to the closest environment to you. We have an end user RDP file download right here. So we have the URL myrdp.download. And when we go here and we type in a username, we actually look up that username, look at their deployment, and then send you the RDP file. There it was downloading if you looked quickly enough, and then it pops open. And this is going to connect me to the RDS installation in US Central, which is the closest of the 4 Google regions to me. Now, again, we're just using IP-based location. So if you've obfuscated your IP address, you actually may show through this as connecting to another Google region than your closest. We do not go after any privacy concerns, right? It's just the public IP address we're given. But now your users can quickly connect. One of the other things I've done is I've just put this right on my desktop. So anytime I can just double click on this and off I go with my local instance of the test drive. Now, of course, I have to find out which browser I was in. So a quick and easy way to find out the closest location to you. The other thing is when I mentioned the Meteor, this also checks to make sure that instance is up and running. So if heaven forbid the central instance I connected to got taken out for some reason, then this would find the next closest instance to me and it would connect me to that and I could go back to work. So that's how we find it. Then the other cool part is if we're talking about an on-premises customer who wants to make that journey to the cloud, we also have an on-prem PC discovery and even a network asset discovery guide These are two tools where you can use them to scan the customer's existing infrastructure to find out what apps they're using, how many users they have, how we can understand the business that's driving that network, right? And then the cool part is we gather all this data and we'll put it in our catalog. So you'll have users listed here that you can then choose to import into the cloud desktops. So let's get into this deployment and let me show you a couple more details about it. The first thing is, how do we eliminate the complexity of Windows Server? We can give you user and application management right here from our screen. So right here, I can add new users or import users. So I can add them from Excel. I can add them from the catalog. As I mentioned, if we scan your environment and we get a user list, then you can pick which of those users to add. So for this user, of course, I show up, and when we click on me, then it gives you details. So here's my configuration. Oh, and there's my email address if you don't have it. And then here are the remote applications I have access to. And then here's the remote desktop collection I have access to. I can also look at things like if I need to take care of a user, they need to reset their password next login, or if I want to disable their password expiration, I can take care of that right here as well. I can also jump over to applications. I'm moving quickly, I understand, but I just kind of want to give you a highlight of some of the things we can do here. So from an applications perspective, if I want to, let's say I just added Google Chrome as an application and I want to deploy it to specific users, it's really as difficult as going to Google Chrome, choosing it, and then checkboxing the users I want to add. And then 5 minutes later, the users are able to log in and see Google Chrome as one of their applications. We manage security groups and folders and shares. I'm not going to spend any time right there right now. If you want more detail, I am happy to spend time with you later, and we can answer your specific questions, or as questions come up later, I'll come back to them. But one of the cool things I want to show you here, we talked about this multi-region footprint. So each collection, we call them collection pools because they're no longer just tied to a specific region. Like TD collection spans all 4 regions and it supports 10 users. So the cool part is when I drill into this, it will show me for this pool that this pool is active in all 4 regions, what kind of virtual machine type we're using, and then how it is scaled. So we have the ability, as you add users to the user group, we can either scale up your VM, say maybe 4 CPU and 32 gig of RAM is great for 20 users, but when I hit 30 users, maybe that needs to be an 8-core with 64 gig of RAM. So we can actually schedule that resize of that VM in the middle of the night so the next day you have enough compute capacity. But the other cool part about RDS is I want to scale out, not up. So instead of having one great big virtual machine, you can also have, of course, maybe 4 2-core virtual machines that are doing the work of, instead of 1, 4, or 8-core big virtual machine. The benefit there is now you don't have to have all 4 of those little virtual machines running if not all of your users are using it. That'll help you with cost savings. The other thing we talk to with our customers a lot is around compliance requirements. So if you have HIPAA, PCI, pick your acronym these days, right? And especially with this work from home environment, how can I make sure that my users can connect from their remote machine, but I'm not impacted, infected, or lose data from my environment to a home machine? So right here, we can enable or disable the whole clipboard access, the whole access to local drives and printers. I showed you my printers, but maybe you don't want people downloading data or information. Truly, we can lock this down to the point that the only way the customer or the only way the end user is going to get any data off of your cloud desktop is using a camera. Okay? I mean, some things we can't prevent no matter what, but we're doing everything we can to make sure we protect the environment. And then, of course, we have the idle session timeouts, because if your users just get up and walk away from their computer, well, we don't want that session to stay open because you're paying runtime costs in the Google Cloud. And with our platform, as people log off, or 2 hours after they walk away, we log them off, Now we can start shutting down virtual machines to start saving you runtime costs when the resources aren't being used. That's one of the big benefits of the cloud, right? Pay for what you use when you use it. When you're not using it, turn it off and stop paying for it. The other thing is you think about hey, James.
Yeah, that's a great point there. I know we have a few minutes left of the demo, but just wanted to pause, Federico, and see if anyone had any questions for Rob specifically as we're doing the demo here.
Actually, Rob, yeah, I'm curious. I'll open it up for the floor, but that's something that keeps coming back in my head. Is like the scenario where you have a customer that already has deployed a VDI solution on-prem, let's say with VMware. And like you mentioned, compliance and security, they have a golden Windows image that they want to implement because it's already hardened or it already has all the compliance applications they need to have on that image. Can itopia import that image and use it on a deployment like this?
Absolutely. And that's the great part is all you have to do is upload that image into the Google Cloud and then import it into our management portal. Then we can see it and then we can use it to provision new collections. Absolutely. So the fun part, since you brought it up, Federico, this is under our images piece right here, where you can create custom images and then deploy those images. Let's say every quarter you need to do your Windows updates and you need to add new applications and retire old applications. So you could do one golden image here once, and then when it's the way you want it, then you just say deploy it to my whole collection pool, and we'll take out all the old images, put in the new images. Next time the users log in, they have a brand new desktop experience that you defined for them.
That's very useful.
So a couple things, and then I'm going to give it back to you, but hey, I hogs my time, right? The other great thing we do with our portal is we take a lot of the Google Cloud management complexity out of your hands. And while I call Google Cloud complex, it's not really complex. It gives you tons and tons of options, right? Which sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. So what we've done is boil it down to the activities you need to focus on for RDS. So we expose all the virtual machine instances, tell you the size, actually let you edit them right from here. And green means that virtual machine is running. Gray means that virtual machine is off. One of the values of the cloud, as I talked about, we have 2 Asia instances, Mumbai and Osaka, as well as Iowa, and there's a 4th one in here. I'm missing it. Sorry. But anyway, we have these regions around Frankfurt. There it is. One of the things we can do is with server uptime, we can schedule when virtual machines start and stop. So when the US is sleeping, let's turn off the VMs in the US because they aren't going to be used. So that's how we're going to save costs for you. And then, of course, we also have snapshotting for backups. Federico, I'm going to give it back to you now. And of course, I'm happy to help with questions.
Okay. Well, let me get the presentation back on. Well, this is loading up. Anybody else has any more questions before we jump and continue on? All right, James, and it's all yours.
Thank you very much. And Rob, I appreciate it. That was a fantastic overview. And I hope for you all, you're able to see kind of the power and the control that you can actually deliver this service at scale. And again, every opportunity, you can always reach out to myself or Rob, and we'll be happy to go in more detail to show you how we create these environments. So just to kind of recap, some of the benefits that are really made with itopia is a speed of deployment, right? So there's a short wizard, asking you how many users, what type of image. And again, it's a pretty quick process. And literally within under 10 minutes, you can go through the wizard, you can hit deploy, and you can have a full remote desktop services environment spun up in 1 hour to 2 hours. 2, again, it's that flexibility of configuration. So as you saw Rob showing you the different ways that you can set up your virtual machines, the regions, being able to scale up and down or schedule different parts of the deployment. Again, you have that full flexibility to deliver exactly what your organization needs. A third is that unified management. Again, you're doing it from one platform. You're not having to use REST APIs, SDKs, understanding PowerShell, going into Windows Server and Google Cloud Platform. You can literally do all of this through the Itopia platform. And lastly, it's all automated. So we're not asking you to develop custom scripts. We're not asking you to use other third-party tools. Again, between Itopia, the Microsoft RDS protocols, and Google Cloud, you have everything that you need to be very successful within your organization. So just a quick snapshot. When you look at traditional VDI on-prem, you're looking, if you can go, Federico, you're looking at really making this transition to more of a modern way of delivering this technology. Can you move the slide, Federico?
Yep.
So when you think about on-prem technology, so if you have this today in your organization, you understand that this is a little bit complex to set up. It does require resources, right? It requires capital to get it set up. It requires some sort of, high-level engineer. And there's a lot of different layers that you have to be responsible for maintaining, patching, and also updating. And then also it just comes down to managing hardware, right? So even looking at building redundancy, right? You can't do that in the same building. You're looking at other co-locations, and there's a lot of other complexities and ancillary different services that you have to consider. When we look at really modernizing this for the cloud, again, we want to make this super simple, very easy, and most importantly, scalable. So if you look at times like today, you see a lot of organizations that had to send workers home. Maybe you have to cut a lot of different contractors during times like we're going through a COVID. Again, you can scale up as your organization grows, and you can scale down when appropriate to really right size, your IT spend as well within your organization. So let's just take a step back and share a quick success story that we've recently had with one of our customers, TELUS International. So within about 24 hours, they came to us. Well, it took about a week total, but once they decided on exactly what they wanted, we got through the economics, they signed the agreement. Within 24 hours, we stood up a deployment that allowed over 2,000 users to access virtual desktops for their contact center agents. Okay. And within our Friday night, we started. By Monday morning, people are logging in using soft phones through a RDP session and sending their call agents home. Now, this had a much greater impact than just from an IT perspective. It really gave TELUS the perspective of, one, they could scale more agents without requiring more resources. So traditionally, they were sending their agents home with a USB stick that they had to mail and get signed off on from a security standpoint. They were looking at giving out corporate devices, correct? And then even in some places, in some of their offices, they literally had their employees unplug computers and take them home. So within 48 hours, we were really able to address their challenges. And now it's led them to think, do I even need to keep my real estate in my offices? You're talking about, tens or even hundreds of offices across different regions, right? And then that's also a real estate cost. So if they want to scale more agents without having to set up the IT infrastructure of an on-prem deployment, and B, the real estate infrastructure to host those office workers, they're really looking at transforming their business even greater during this time. And the last thing that I'll point out is that they did leverage BigQuery. So one of their first requests is that they wanted to see some reports that they had seen from traditional Citrix and VMware deployments they had. And it was fantastic, as our deployment, our Itopia platform, which you didn't see, does have some analytics built in. But once you activate the BigQuery in the back end, we can literally input tons of data points that you can leverage to create custom reports, be able to visualize this data. And now it starts to become a greater impact in IT, but we can really deliver value, to our HR department, looking at log in, log off times. We're able to track, record sessions. We're able to do a lot of things that can allow you to be very powerful in understanding how your users are utilizing the technology. So just wanted to spend a couple minutes there just telling you about TELUS. So some of our other customers, Again, we kind of have a global footprint. We're use case agnostic, and we really can find a solution to really host these Windows applications for your users. A couple that I'll point out, Fronteo was a legal services company that had over 500 different lawyers accessing the technology to do e-discovery work, and now that's rapidly growing, right? So they started out in the U.S., now they're growing, to their home base in Japan, and this deployment can grow to thousands of users. One other interesting use case that we had was third floor visualization. They do kind of post-production work on movies and TV shows, and actually use the virtual desktop deployed within Itopia to do some editing for Game of Thrones for HBO. So again, we can handle some interesting use cases. Again, we may not be the best fit for everyone, but we do feel that for a majority of use cases out there, we can really solve your issues. So what does cost look like? There's 3 cost components that go into every deployment. One is going to be your Itopia license, which we charge $12 per user per month. The second component is going to be your GCP consumption. And that's the biggest variable because you may have users, let's say an accounting office. Well, when it comes tax season, they're going to be very heavily involved in using their remote environments. Maybe outside of tax season, it won't be so much. And again, you can do things within our technology to schedule machines on and off, as well as seeing machines turn off based on real-time user demand. So the example that we're showing you here is if the uptime was 10 by 5, that's a 50-hour work week, and it shows you that we can drive this down, to below $30 and give you a great experience. The last cost component that's not mentioned here is the RDS user license. This license is a requirement to use the remote desktop services, and typically you can procure it through any sort of one of your software vendors, but it is a bring your own license, and typically you can budget an additional $4 to $5 per user per month for that license, and we'll be glad to answer any questions to walk you through of how to bring that license. But again, this shows you the cost that we can save. It shows you the power of the technology, and to be able to do it at a price that's economically fit for your organization.
Great. That's great. Thanks, James.
No problem. So again, we appreciate it. Again, we thank for your time. We left some time here at the end for questions, and feel free to shoot for Rob and myself.
Yep. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, James. Now we're gonna open up the floor for any questions. I don't see anything typed in on the chat window, but if you were holding on to any questions and wanted to throw them out now's the time. We have about 10 minutes left before the end of the session. And if you're talking and your microphone is muted, hello? All right. All right, I guess we don't have any immediate questions. So to wrap it up, this is kind of what we have going on for next meeting. We're going to go through how to apply best practices for business continuity with our SRE team. And that's going on April 30th at 1 p.m. I hope to see you up here. And well, just thank you for listening to the session. Just if you want to contact the speakers, and you can email them. We provided the emails at the beginning of the presentation. And like I said before, if you want to continue the conversation, please feel free to reach any of us via email. We can put you in touch with any of the experts and continue exploring the solution. We will be reaching out for feedback also. We would love to hear about what you want to see next. And we look forward to seeing you next time at this webinar series that we call OK Google, Tell Me How. Enjoy the rest of the day and stay safe. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Federica.
Thank you, guys.